The Vikings just got a double dose of good news I'm going to tell you about in this video. Hit subscribe if you're a Vikings fan or interested in anything NFC North related, because that's what me and the boys on the NFC North Guys channel are going to be doing. Let's jump straight into this quarterback situation trending up for the Minnesota Vikings. If you missed Kevin O'Connell a couple days ago, let me summarize to kind of set the scene here with where things are going for the Minnesota Vikings quarterback situation. Basically, the Vikings are not resting on their laurels. That's good news. They're attacking the QB situation aggressively, and I think this is great from both sides. This is great for J.J. McCarthy. This is great for the Minnesota Vikings offensive scheming and all the planning for the upcoming season. Number one, for J.J., it lights a fire under J.J. McCarthy's butt to go out there this offseason, which is unique because this is going to be his first actual NFL offseason without injury rehab and any of that stuff. Remember, these rookies, when they come from college, they don't get a break. They've got combine. They have to treat OTAs like way more intensely than typical vets have to. They have playbook stuff they get handed pretty much right after they get drafted. So combine, draft, OTAs, all the learning in between, plus training camp, and their bodies are not like truly resting during a lot of that time. They get into the season, they play the longest season of their lives typically, and then they come off of that. Well, what happened to J.J. McCarthy is before he even had a chance to have a regular first season in the NFL, what did he have? He got injured, and then he had injury rehab, and so this is a really unique, special offseason for him where he's not worried about injury rehab, and to have it going into it, having had some experience, learned some lesson, made a lot of mistakes, have a lot of film to break down and learn from, but also have some good film that he put up to be able to learn from as well. So he's got his mistakes and his benefits to learn from. On top of that, no injury rehab, none of that stuff. And Kevin O'Connell says basically there's going to be a QB competition, and now he's going into the offseason having to really put everything on the line. And this is a perfect situation for his development, in my opinion. And it's a win-win if you do it right. Because all of the offensive minds out there, out of all of them, who would you want managing a quarterback competition? Kevin O'Connell's definitely on the short list, right? Maybe Kyle Shanahan. Like, you need somebody who is a QB whisperer, who can work with a bunch of different types of QBs and find ways to be successful and proven it in the league. Kevin O'Connell's one of those guys. So I think this is a good situation for the Minnesota Vikings. Here's what Kevin O'Connell had to say via the Daily Norseman. And then stick around for the second point, too, in a moment here. The other piece of good news that I think you guys are going to like. Starting with this, though. In the quarterback room, this is what Kevin O'Connell said just a couple days ago. It's about having the deepest talented room you possibly can every year. What that looks like is a pretty impactful position on your salary cap, and when you're able to possibly plan for the depth chart looking in a way where you can be competitive no matter what. I think there has to be competition. I think that's what's going to make everybody better in that room. I definitely want a competitive situation in the QB room. Obviously, JJ is going to be a major emphasis for our staff and our team, and me personally. We'll figure out what that looks like as we navigate the early part of the offseason when it comes to managing the roster. I think ultimately we got to decide how to not only continue JJ's progression, allowing him to continue to ascend as a young player, but at the same time, I think the competition in that room will only enhance our entire team. Notice, by the way, that he talks about the early part of this offseason. If you're going to have a quarterback competition, I meant to say this in my earlier notes. If you're going to have a quarterback competition, it has to start early, which means you're going to see the Minnesota Vikings making a move early on. We're not talking about players that are going to be like, potential free agents that'll be holdouts that you might try and sneak in if they're not with their team come August. This is a player who's going to be coming in really early that's going to be a genuine competition for J.J. McCarthy. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But I think that's a good thing. I'm saying that as a positive. I was really encouraged by the type of football that J.J. started to play the second half of the season, finishing the way he did. But we're still looking at a quarterback who's only started 10 games. 10 out of a possible 34 games in 2 years. Not the ideal path for a young quarterback to develop on the field, but I thought he did. So, look, my opinion on this is it's a good situation. Kevin O'Connell himself said J.J. McCarthy is a guy who wants to be great. I know he's going to work tirelessly to do that. I know his teammates have a lot of confidence in what he's going to do to work to improve this offseason and come back, have a great offseason, and be ready to hit the ground running in 2026. I think a deep, talented quarterback room will only enhance his ability to do that, and I look forward to being a part of that process. So, like I said, this is a win-win. You're trending up either way. Either you get a J.J. McCarthy who improves, or you got somebody else coming in and you are moving on, right? Basically, that's the situation as it shakes out, in my opinion. I think that's a good situation. And on top of that, you got Brian Flores. The Brian Flores situation has been trending up as well. It's been looking better for the Minnesota Vikings from a lot of reasons. Now, you got the stuff that Coach Kevin O'Connell said. I'll get to some of that in a little bit later. But the stuff that I think right now that's most exciting is I'm looking at all these updates and seeing where things are shaking for B-Flow, where things are shaking for other teams, who they're most likely to end up with. It all looks really good for Brian Flores, not having a head coach job and potentially then returning to the Minnesota Vikings. Let's get into some of that. So let's start with this fact. The Vikings themselves have said they're confident they're going to keep Brian Flores if he doesn't get a head coaching job, okay? So what head coaching jobs could he get? Is he likely to get? And will it happen? They have good reason to be optimistic because the only team that Brian Flores has top odds to be the head coach of is Vegas. Now, I expect Brian Flores to be more choosy this time around. Most people who have a first head coach appointment and go work for another team because it didn't quite work out for them don't pick just any team, right? I expect Brian Flores to be choosy. I also personally don't think that Vegas is going to be going for a defensive-minded guy. If I had to bet, and part of this is totally biased because of Tom Brady, but I'd have to bet that they're going to go for an offensive-minded guy. I think a guy like Clint Kubiak, who has high odds to get the position, or another offensively-minded guy might be a better shot, but they're interviewing both, so we'll see. As of right now, guys like Clint Kubiak, Kevin Stefanski, Vance Joseph, Jesse Minter, Davis Webb have all completed interviews already. Brian Flores has not. Flores is not interviewed with the Raiders, so I wouldn't trust those odds just yet, even though they say he's the odds-on favorite. I wouldn't trust those odds. Right? I get why he might be liked for the position, but I don't think that's going to work. I don't think it's going to go that direction. Could be wrong. That's just where I'm at right now. If Pittsburgh offers, on the other hand, I think he'd be crazy not to take it. I have a hard time believing that Brian Flores would not take that job if he gets the offer from a team like Pittsburgh. Obviously, has the history there with Pittsburgh, so that one makes it even harder, but he'd be crazy not to take that. The good news is Chris Shula is actually the odds-on favorite to get that one, the defensive coordinator over with the Los Angeles Rams. Now, Flores has not yet interviewed with the Steelers, but it is expected soon. He did interview with the Ravens, but folks like Jesse Minter, who's the odds-on favorite, Clint Kubiak, the second odds-on favorite, Cliff Kingsbury, Mike McDaniel, Kevin Stefanski, Robert Saleh are all expected to be in the mix for the Ravens job. So really, as far as I'm concerned, the only one that Brian Flores is the odds-on favorite for is the one in Vegas, and I don't think he's going to even go for that. And the one that he's not odds-on favorite for would be the one that I think he would actually go for if he got offered, and that's Pittsburgh. So, look, odds are odds. I get it. As far as I'm concerned, though, I feel kind of optimistic for the Minnesota Vikings fans out there like yourselves. Here's how Kevin O'Connell put it. Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell told reporters Tuesday that Flores sits atop their list of priorities as they enter the 2026 offseason and feels the urgency to keep the coordinator, whom O'Connell said the Vikings have been really aggressive in pursuing. I think he's more than deserving. Everything he's brought to our organization over these last few years, KOC said. Not surprised, people are wanting to talk to him about the role, excited for him to do so, all while knowing our number one priority, really, before the season even ended, our number one priority has been to get that thing done with him. O'Connell stated he has a lot of confidence. I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments, but I feel like this is in general, I think this is an optimistic situation for the Minnesota Vikings. if you can get him through this carousel. And I've been asking buddies because, like, you know, I'm biased, obviously, so it's hard for me to see outside of it, right? I've been asking buddies, like, who they feel like, you know, from the outsider looking in, do you feel like Brian Flores has a really good shot to be a head coach this upcoming cycle? And the main thing that they're talking about, which is all fair, is like there's a lot of people out there right now. There's a lot of potential head coaches that are swirling around in the carousel, you know? So there's a lot of opportunity. There's also, because there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of competition. So, you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate you guys, and hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Thursday night.